I've spent the last 6 years helping parents through the hardest parts of raising children. But everything I thought I knew about behaviour completely changed when I recently trained as a somatic experiencing practitioner. So today I'm going to be taking a popular episode of Supernanny and we're going to be looking at it through a somatic lens, not a behaviour lens, which is what we see out there. In this episode today, it features Nikki and Chris, who's mum and dad, and Cameron, who's 4 years old, and his 15-month-old brother. As we look at this video, we're going to see the behaviour from Cameron, which seems quite explosive, it seems quite violent. And on YouTube, this episode's called, Is This the Most Violent Child Ever?
He controls the whole family. It's hit, slam doors, throw things around and be quite destructive as well.
So in the intro, we're already seeing a lot of behaviour. We're looking at hitting, kicking, shouting. We see mum who's just completely dysregulated. So we kind of know where this episode's going.
Chris's answer is to shut Cameron in his room.
But we can be stuck up there for an hour and still have the same behaviour. Yeah.
What I'm seeing so clearly here is Cameron's having a real strong fight response. If you think of the fight, flight, freeze, fight, it's in the name. It's kicking, it's punching, it's screaming, potentially spitting. It's just his system is really in threat mode right now and he's got no control over this or whatsoever. So I know what's coming up next because I watched this last night, and because this is a somatic video, I want you to track what happens in your own body as you hear what's shared next in this video. And I'm already aware of what is happening in my own legs, in particular around my temperature. So this is really important what the narrator is saying about why they think this might be that Cameron is behaving like this. So just have a listen.
Some of Cameron's bad behaviour could be put down to the fact that his younger brother died. Cameron was only 2.5 at the time.
Josh was 11 months old when they lost him to cot death.
Things like that teach you that there isn't always a tomorrow, and sometimes I feel like it's just for today.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, and I wish this episode just stopped here. We've got this really important information of a huge shock trauma that rippled through this family, and when Cameron was 2.5 years old, they lost his little brother Josh. Right in this moment, I'm actually having what we call a freeze response. My legs are really cold and my body temperature's gone really cold and nothing in my environment has changed. And this is just one of the responses that can happen in situations like this. I surmise that for Cameron, he's having a strong fight response. And what's been felt in the family system through shock trauma, through grief, through loss, is experienced by everyone, and everyone works through that and copes and manages in very different ways. But Cameron was only 2.5 years old. So in an ideal world, mum and dad would have got some therapeutic support, some somatic support, and they would have been guided through this horrendous time where they lost their son. I cannot even imagine how awful that is. And in an ideal world, Cameron would have also been supported therapeutically or by family, friends who could really help him. But in a situation like this, professional support is needed. So I think this is really worth considering. The whole episode looks at like these huge explosive behaviours, but for him, 1 minute his brother was here, the next minute he's gone. But not only that, how mum and dad processed or didn't process that loss, which we'll see further on.
I don't think you discipline him at all.
I just feel sometimes that he's so naughty and everyone's always cross at him that if I wasn't there for him to give him a cuddle, then nobody would. I don't know how much more of all this that we can all take as a family.
And you can just hear in the mum's voice, there's quivering in her voice. Dad seems quite disconnected, just looking at his eyes. And obviously I've seen some of this episode further on, so maybe I've got that information in my head. But Dad's going down the route of, I don't think you discipline him. And mum is not okay. It's not just the behaviour. This is the loss of a child, and whether she's had support, I'm not too sure. It wasn't too long ago. If Cameron's only 4 now, it was 2.5 when Josh died from cot death. The fact that she's allowed and invited Supernanny and camera crew into her home, and that in itself can be quite dysregulating. Your home environment isn't how it is, but a parent must be at their absolute limit to go on a show like this. But thankfully, things have changed since then, and mental health is a bigger topic. There's more support out there. I'm not sure what year this was filmed, but it looks like the early 2000s. But it really, there's a strong part of me, there's somatic experiencing practitioner part of me that's like, oh, I just wish she had some somatic support.
Nikki! Stop!
So this bit runs into the middle of the road. So when a child's got fight-flight energy, they're looking at mobilising it. So it's almost like if you imagine being all dressed up with nowhere to go. That's what fight-flight energy is. It's what we call in somatic experiencing activation. So Cameron's really activated here, and he's running, he's trying to mobilise that energy through his body. But what happens is he's got no sense of danger because he's already feeling incredibly unsafe. So as he edges towards the road, that then increases Mum's dysregulation, where she's now running, screaming after him. So they're both stuck in this dysregulation loop.
To be kidding me. Right now, are you in control or not? Because look where your child is.
And I don't know how much somatic awareness you have, but try and bring some awareness to your own system as you're watching these clips. And even just hearing Supernanny talk there, I just took a breath, and it's just like, I'm just not feeling the compassion. I'm just feeling sort of the authority, and I'm here to do a job. And I know we're only seeing a snippet of it. And I've seen talks of Supernanny outside of these episodes, and I know she's a really caring person, and a lot of the way this is filmed is for TV. But again, just hearing what they shared in the first few minutes about losing their son, that gives us information from what's happening in this whole family system. And their approach, it doesn't need the Supernanny approach, needs a therapeutic approach.
Supernanny asked Chris what he thinks lies at the root of the problem.
We did have another son, Josh, who died at 11 months old from cot death. Cameron at the time would have been coming up to 2.5. It's affected Nikki a lot more than it's affected me, because she was the one that had to walk in.
So again, I'm tracking what's happening here, watching Poor Dad here. And again, my legs have gone very cold. I know the freeze response very well in my own sort of personal journey. So I'm feeling a lot colder than I was just a moment ago. And you can tell here that Dad's really shut off from his experience of what happened when he lost his son. And this isn't something that he's done on purpose. This is something that his system has cleverly done to try and help him. It's actually a survival strategy, because when something is too overwhelming and when there's zero capacity for dealing with it, then the system shuts off in this way. And he believes that it's impacted his wife more than it has him, because his wife has had to walk in on baby Josh, who had sadly passed away.
His friend gives Supernanny more insight.
Since Josh died, the behaviour with Cameron did go downhill a little bit, and then like you used to say, oh no, it's because he's missing his brother. You used to use that as an excuse all the time.
How much of an impact has this made on you as a woman? Do you feel your confidence has been knocked?
And I really feel uncomfortable with the way Joe Frost has posed that question. How do you think this has impacted you as a woman? Do you think it's knocked your confidence? And I really don't like that comment, because as a woman myself and as a mother, something like losing your child would be a lot more than a knock to your confidence. It would be horrendous, and one wouldn't need to ask that question, because they would just know that that would be a horrendous thing to go through. So personally, don't think that's the most compassionate approach for talking with Mum right now. But what's interesting is that Mum's friend has said that Cameron's behaviour did change when his brother sadly died.
I just think that I didn't do enough for Josh. I have to do all this much more for Cameron. And I just feel like I failed as a mum. Because he died and I didn't do anything about it. Now I feel like I'm not in control of him either. And it's something that happened to him too.
Really sorry, Anne.
So this is just completely heartbreaking, isn't it? That Nikki believes that she's failed as a mum because her son passed away, which was absolutely no fault of her own. But this can be the guilt part of grief, and understandably. So when she feels like she failed to protect one child, then she is perhaps going to take a very different approach with Cameron. But what we're seeing in this episode is a lot of trying to manage behaviours, and it's not actually about getting to the root cause. And we are touching on it. Dad knows, mum knows, best friend knows that things change once Cameron's brother passed away. But unfortunately, these things do require real specialist therapeutic approaches and support to help a family grieve and go through such a shock trauma. And what can really happen in situations like and others is and children that are quite young, they can be reflecting back what is happening in the wider family system, what's not being said, what's not being felt, what's not being expressed. I'm sure that there might be times where mum and dad have actually felt anger, rage, they've felt that in their body. Why did our son have to die? And Cameron, he's just metabolizing that, and his system is trying to find an outlet. Again, it's that being all dressed up with nowhere to go. His body is trying to move this charge, but he just doesn't quite have the right co-regulation that he needs. So at this point, I don't feel like it's necessary to look at the later parts of the episode. It might be something that I'll do a part 2 of. But hopefully watching this, you can start looking at it through a different lens, because I think on Supernanny, when they're showing big explosive behaviour, we can sit back as viewers and we can think, wow, that child's really naughty, that's horrendous, and if that was my child, and we can have all of this thought. But from someone in my position, I am not seeing it like that at all. Within the first couple of minutes, we understand what's happened in this family and what's potentially contributed to Cameron being like this. And that's what I do in my work with parents. When they come to me potentially experiencing things like this, I'll go through an intensive consultation with them in our first ever session, and I'll find out what's been happening in their family. Has there been any losses? Has there been any house moves? Has there been any changes to family dynamics? And has there been any hospital procedures? So there's so many things that we look at to really help a parent understand what is going on underneath their child's behaviour. And not only that, the majority of my work focuses on helping a parent find their own regulation by working through previous traumas and helping them in complete fight, flight, freeze responses. So I'm going to be doing more videos like this because I think it's a way to connect the two, somatic experiencing with pop culture, and help you understand more about your own behaviour and your child and what's going on beneath the surface.